Right, let's see if I remember how to do this. It's been a while since I've had to talk about an official princess. Luckily, there's a lot to discuss about Tiana, and The Princess and the Frog as a whole. For starters, why didn't it do very well in theatres? We hadn't had a princess movie in a decade. You'd think we'd have been tripping over ourselves to go see this new classic. But that's the thing, we couldn't be guaranteed it was going to be any good. Since Tarzan and Lilo and Stitch, Disney had been very quiet, mostly churning out terrible sequel after terrible sequel. It brought out the odd original feature, odd being the operative word, dabbling with 3D, attempting to rival sister studio Pixar, who by now had firmly established themselves as the new gold standard in family entertainment. This sudden return to 2D made us wary. Outside of Miyazaki and the like, adults were no longer really expected to enjoy 2D animation. But if the story was solid enough, word of mouth would have spread and it would have been somewhat of a sleeper hit. But the story we got... let's get into this properly. I find it hard not to praise Tiana. Unlike princesses that even I have called hard-working, such as Snow White and Cinderella, Tiana doesn't look perfectly pristine after a day of toil. Her hair's a mess, her body droops, she's a wreck. As you'd expect. Okay, Barney Gumble she ain't, but it's Disney, at least they were trying. And for once, we have a plot driven by character motivation, rather than whatever the plot outline dictates. Well, at first. It saddens me to say it, but, like Pocahontas, Tiana has a quirky intro. Alright, not so much quirk as genuine character development, but whatever it is, it disappears the moment she turns into a frog, and from there the story is entirely driven by the plot. Now, normally I leave cultural context alone. I am aware of my own ignorance and I've no wish to flaunt it, but I do have some opinions on this one. At the time, we all did. And I want to apologise in advance if this offends anybody, obviously that's not my intention. Just bear in mind that this opinion stems from character and storytelling, not race. Basically, I don't understand why it was such a big deal. We've already had a Native American princess, an Asian princess, and, if you really want to push it, a princess who was half Piscean. A black princess isn't that big of a surprise, is it? I can't and won't act like it isn't important, though. Yes, we've had diversions, but for the most part it has been a massive conga line of the Caucasian. Hell, the first princess was literally Snow White, so yes, big thumbs up for a splash of colour. I do question its relevance in the story, though. When you set the movie in 1930s New Orleans, the fact that the protagonist is a black woman, even in a kids' film, should be acknowledged and explored, for the purpose of both interest and education. But they're not, because for the majority of the movie, she's not black. She's green. And being a frog brings Tiana a whole new set of problems, completely separate from the ones she had as a human. And that disconnect does make me question why they bothered. Like I say, I am not complaining, and if this means we see more black Disney characters that actually deal with their race, then you know what? I'll take it all back. Maybe I'm expecting too much from Disney, but I feel like this movie in particular wasted a good opportunity to be informative.
Look how she lights up the sky.
Okay, in fairness, I am glad they didn't make a big deal about Tiana and Naveen being in a mixed-race relationship. Fight bigotry with normality, I like it. I don't so much like this couple, though. As I said before, once Tiana becomes a frog, it all becomes about the plot for her. Naveen managed to retain some character, which is good, but there's not enough there for me to see any chemistry between them. The way they meet is dictated by the plot. The way they hate each other at first is dictated by the plot. The way they grow to like and then love each other is dictated by the plot. The failed proposal, the misunderstanding, the reunion. I've seen this all before. It's boring. And it's such a shame, because both Tiana and Naveen were both really interesting when they were human, Naveen in particular. In fact, that might be the problem with the whole movie. It's supposed to be Tiana's story, but it's really Naveen's. He goes through the biggest emotional change, he has a tangible arc, he actually learns something and finds balance in his life. I think that's what we were meant to take away from Tiana's story, but I don't. At the beginning of the story, she wants to open a restaurant. That's it. At the end, she's opened her restaurant, and the only thing that's changed is that she's married now. So what happened in the story was that she met Amal and fell in love. That sounds familiar. Now, I don't want to draw too strong a comparison to, say, Aurora. Literally all she wanted was to find a man and marry him. That was the beginning and the end of her as a person. Tiana doesn't just want more than that, she's not actively looking for a man at all. And it's the people around her who seem concerned about her situation.
To meet your Prince Charming and dance off into your happily ever after.
Girl, all you ever do is work.
But that just makes her moral all the more baffling. If she was happy where she was, and she finds more happiness on her journey, what exactly has she learned? That happiness is good? Yeah, I remember a film that had a similar moral. You may recall I didn't like it all that much. But in that movie, it was the filler that saw the movie through. In Princess and the Frog, it's the filler that makes it slow. Ray, the firefly who's in love with the star, is cute, but completely unnecessary. Although his pointlessness is nothing compared to the jazz-loving gazer who constantly drags the story away from its focus. Tiana and Naveen both deserved way more than they got. It's a stronger love story than Cinderella, but Disney has proved it's capable of so much better. I like Tiana on principle. She's genuinely hardworking, genuinely likeable, and a strong step forward for diversity. But she got lost in a boring story and convoluted side plots. By cutting out some of the excess, Tiana, and indeed Naveen, could have been worth more. If you want a simple story where the characters are given room to grow, go watch Beauty and the Beast, or Tarzan. God, even Hercules did that better. But this was still the best we'd seen from Disney in a long time, and they later proved that they were just warming up, because, arguably, Princess and the Frog kicked off the Disney resurgence, a period that we're currently still going through, and I cannot explain to you how excited I am to see where this new path takes us. Join me next time when I'll be taking another look at Jessie in Toy Story 3.